All right. I think we are officially live. We are on Thursday. It's January 26th. We are hyped. Tesla stock is up roughly almost 10%. It was shooting to the moon last night at almost over 6%. But we're just super stoked. And I'm really thankful to have Herbert and Amy join and just really just drop their knowledge. But I'm just going to pass it to them to do a quick intro. And then Herbert is just going to lead us in a summary of his thoughts and some of the things that were mentioned yesterday.
Wonderful. Should I go first, Amy? Okay. All right. I'll go first. So my name's Herbert. I am on Twitter at Herbert Ong, and you can find me at YouTube at Brighter with Herbert. Just like Amy, I was going to steal your thunder. I'm a investor in Tesla since 2012. We've seen it all happen, but last year was the most difficult year, I think, for us. But now we're starting to see things starting to finally move back up again. So I'm getting excited all over again.
Yeah, I'm Amy. Same as Herbert. I started investing in Tesla after the IPO. I've been all in since 2012, mostly. Every now and then, I've made some trading mistakes and wished I just held the shares. That's it.
Amy, did you say you're all in since 2012? Like Tesla was your main investment?
Yeah, that's right. I just had
Crazy.
had extreme conviction, and I had so many like hedge fund boyfriends through the time period. They're like,
Yeah.
you doing? I don't understand it. And I have heard from every single one of them saying, God, wish I'd listened to you and just bought 1,000 shares, done something.
No, that's something else because I did not go all in until just 2020, and that you've got the best conviction I've seen of anybody at this point. So I'm going to try to see if I can find anybody that's better than you. But right now, this is it. You're it.
Yeah, no, and just a ton of wealth of knowledge. And so I'm really thankful to have her on, also you as Herbert. But yeah, kick us off with your summary. But I mean, we're just pumped, right? I mean, the stock is just to the moon today. And, I think there's been a lot of noise over literally the past like 3 months. And this really just, I think just, they laid out a lot of signal on what the future is. And again, Herbert's going to go into that now.
Yeah. I think for me, what I was most excited about, and I think most of the investors were right off the bat, let's put the demand concern to rest. That was the most important thing he said. From my perspective, it's all about demand. They said a few things. So first they said, in January, we received the most orders in our history. They also said demand exceeds production. And then they said demand is 2 times the production since the price cuts. So these were the statements that we needed to hear, and they said them. And so that was critical. They did initially guide for 1.8 million. Some people go, so that's a little lower than they expected. I'm so happy they did that. I really want them to sandbag what the production targets are. Then in the question and answer area, Elon said, our internal production is closer to 2 million vehicles, and we're only saying 1.8 because there might be a force majeure somewhere. If it's a smooth year, we're going to be able to have the potential for 2 million. So that was a critical thing. And then he said there would be demand for that too. So again, nobody should anymore at this point be so concerned about softening in demand as much as anybody might think of. They reiterated the guidance for 50% annual growth rate. And again, as we investors are aware, they're not saying every year is going to be 50%, but on par over the years, it will be 50%. And so they are still saying that. And remember, this is happening during a recession last year, or an inflationary year last year, and all the different macro events. And this year, in case if there's a severe recession. So the reason why the stock shot up is because the outlook wasn't as bad as expected. And Zach confirmed when he said that our forecast believe will still be above 20% auto gross margin and above $47,000 across all models for ASPs. So in terms of 2022 and the Q4 performance, Elon started off by saying, best year ever in every level. They had beat in top line and bottom line. They had record quarterly profit. The fourth quarter profit was 37% higher than last year. So, and the cash, for me, that's the most important. It's been growing to 22.2 billion. They are so well prepared for anything. The bear case, and there is still going to be a bear case. And what I heard them say is this: They're saying, well, if you look at the Q4 auto gross margins, it was 25.9%, which is lower than the 28.4% consensus. And the Q4 free cash flow was lower by it's 1.42 instead of 3 billion consensus. Now they're going, and imagine when this is the Q4. So in Q1 with the 18% price cuts, what's going to happen when this stock is already valued at the 50% growth rate mark? Okay, that's their opinion. I respond by thinking, well, first of all, the 50% growth rate, the stock has already fallen significantly. It's no longer, kind of priced at that number. Two, Zach was pretty clear saying things like the reason why the auto gross margin was lower in Q4 was because it was affected by higher raw materials, logistics, commodity prices. The lithium prices were sky high. They're ramping up the gigafactories. They're ramping up 4680s. All of these things are going to be addressed in Q1. And so I think that's good. And then finally, I just want to talk about Cybertruck. I couldn't believe it was kind of really low in the earnings call. I thought it was important. And they did say it's still on track for mid-year. Now, they did kind of damper. They said it's going to be smaller production at the beginning, but it's going to be massive full production for next year. But for me, that was critical. It's important that they launch Cybertruck this year. There you go.
No, yeah, sorry, on every point I wanted to like jump in. But we have a late comer who is going to come. I'm going to add him in now. His name's Will. Will, what's up, man?
What's up? How you doing?
Good. Well, thanks for joining us from Starbase. This dude's like literally docked up by the Starbase. But yeah, no, Herbert, I just wanted to chime in. So thank you so much for your summary there. If you don't know, he's also been known for kind of being the Tesla milestone guy. So great summary. But yeah, I thought, I'm really happy that this year that they have guided to a lower number. And even they mentioned later on in the call that they could get to 2 million if everything goes right. I mean, obviously last year we had the inflation, the recession, the war with Ukraine, and just a lot of macro stuff that can't happen. And this year, obviously, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen. Things could happen, take a turn in China. I mean, just there's a lot of volatility this year. So I'm really happy that they are kind of in some ways sandbagging, beat and raise. And I thought that was a very smart and mature response given what happened with the delivery numbers, where I think everyone was hedging at this 50%, and obviously they came in, at 40. And so I think it's better to, again, lower expectations. And that's already pretty much built into the price, given the at 1.70% drop. So I thought that was a really smart move. I'm really happy that they did that. But yeah, I think I just wanted to make that comment on your first point. I don't know if Will or Amy, I know Will, you joined a little bit late, but we were just talking about, some of the main things that happened in the call.
For me, one of the most interesting things was it was a huge shift in the way they're going to manage the company in the future. So up until now, auto has been king. And if auto needed anything, they got to steal all the battery components. They even they're doing the Model 3 ramp. They stole staff. I mean, even HR was there helping to try and ramp the Model 3. And now Zach Kirkhorn said, we're going to be managing to gross profit margin. And that's going to be the number one thing. And it's kind of saying all the divisions in Tesla to compete against each other, but they're also no longer battery component limited, so that all divisions can equally grow. And the specific reason why he mentioned doing that is because energy is going to be growing at a greater rate than auto.
Yeah, no, great point. I mean, energy is growing at an insane clip, and it is bigger than their auto business as far as growth rate. Will, did you want to chime in on anything that you saw?
Herbert, all great points. There was one thing that you said about Cybertruck, which was, obviously it's going to be low volumes, but I think what Elon was referring to when he said it wouldn't be substantial, I think he meant to the bottom line. I think he actually said substantial to the bottom line. So I think, Cybertruck's going to be one of the fastest assembled vehicles probably in history, out the door. And I don't see the production being that slow. I think, they're going to, move slow through the ramp up. But I think once production starts, even low volume is going to be, before they actually get to, volume, is going to be pretty substantial. It's just that it's not going to have a substantial profit because of, you know, all the costs associated with that ramp.
That's
Yeah.
good to hear.
Yeah, no, Will being bullish out there about the ramp. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm as far as the Cybertruck, that for me, I'm really excited about, because that's going to be like throwing it, not necessarily a new Model 3 in there, because obviously the long tail of like how many units this truck is going to sell. But you know, they were really speaking to how, you know, volume production is going to happen in 2024, and also too, Herbert and everyone just keep me. I think he said that margin will improve going into like 2024, 2025 as they roll out this truck, and it's probably because of the ASPs. But I think once they ramp the Cybertruck, everyone's just going to be super excited. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I don't think I'm going to drive to or fly to Austin to pick it up or anything, but you know, you know, once these things are on the road, it's going to be like seeing computer graphics like in real life. And so I'm personally really looking forward to. Again, that's a total side note, but yeah, I think, you know, I'm really stoked about where they guided to. I feel like they're entering. I don't know if this is more of like a maturing phase for them
Yeah.
as far as their earnings go, but I was really happy that you push to the 1.8. You kind of allude to like this could be greater than that. And you kind of just, again, the official numbers like kind of more like 1.8 versus the 2 million, and you hopefully can get past that. The Q1 numbers are going to be really interesting too, especially with all of the price drops.
Was there any questions, you guys, that you thought should have been answered but wasn't answered? Like Amy, you've been watching every single Q4 since 2012. So what were you waiting for this year?
Actually, it wasn't. I was more excited by what I wasn't really expecting to hear, but I heard. And
Okay.
that is, in my opinion, Elon is always so far ahead of us. You know, we're looking at the Cybertruck ramp. He's already on the Gen 3 platform, and they're already designing it. And in order to produce two cars for the effort and the cost of one Model 3, that requires a lead time. And it seems to me from this earnings call that I heard of 3 different areas where they've already had production and efficiencies that are going to be necessary for the Gen 3 platform that they've already implementing now. One of those was they talked about redesigning their whole supply chain. And in other calls, Elon's mentioned that if they need to vertically integrate, they will vertically integrate to get that supply chain as lean as possible. And it sounded like there were significant improvements made there. The second thing was Drew Bagliano when he talked about a whole redesign on the drivetrain that was going to create a significant decrease in COGS. That sounded very significant to me. And then Tesla has returned to the era of being very, very cagey when they talk about what their battery cell costs are, presumably because they're having a lead over everybody else. So when Elon on the call talked about how if you look at the floor plan area of the new Giga Nevada, and they're planning to have so many hours out of there, that shows you the strides they've made and all those promises they made on Battery Day in the manufacturing and efficiency of battery cell components. So those were 3 things that are going to be necessary for the Gen 3 platform that show that they're already well on the way of designing something so cheap and efficient, and it's benefiting the products that Tesla already has and the cost of goods going forward. Particularly good timing with the macro environment.
Yeah, Herbert, did you want to show that one graph? And this is something that's like, and I think again, Amy mentioned it, right? Is that they're going to be, you know, focusing on operating margin, but this is something you don't see in the auto industry. And again, Herbert is going to bring it up. Let me add it to the stream real quick. So here, what you have is the average selling price, which is the ASP, and then the operating margin. And you have the historical years from 2017 through 2022. And again, Martin commented, I think he even put out a tweet. This is what they're focused on. But look at this. I mean, the average selling price is going down, right? And obviously, because you know you have the Model 3, the Model Y coming in. And probably in the past 2 or 3 years, the ASPs actually kind of stayed flat, even with the price drops. Some of the price drops, obviously 2022 doesn't have the full, but just seeing the operating margin, they're leveraging that. And you don't see that. Typically, you would see the opposite happen, is that as you build more cars, more expenses come, your margins shrink, especially as you continue to expand and build out more factories. But I think this is, again, this is, which is the
Just
biggest thing.
the efficiency right here.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can see this is when Model 3 comes in. This is the 2017 bar right here, 2018. And then as you move forward, instead of the operating margin dropping or staying more flat, they continually wait until it's cost efficient to grow. They're not growing outside of their, bigger than their britches. They grow so that they stay profitable. It's just so important.
And what it seems crazy, right, is that this is 2022, and you see the operating margin going up, and this is before the ramp of the 2 gigafactories. This is before the ramp of 4680, and this is before we start hopefully getting margin from software like FSD or others, right? So do you think that bar is gonna, that graph is gonna line gonna keep going straight up, or is it in fact even gonna go like up?
Yeah. Amy, were you gonna say something?
No.
Yeah, well, so yeah, I would, yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? I mean, I think the biggest thing is that, the efficiency that they're running, but they're also running this during a lot of macroeconomic
Right.
headwinds and a lot of issues that happened in China last year. And again, I think it just speaks volume to, how ruthlessly this team at Tesla is working every day to make sure every part of the supply chain, every cost of part is optimized, right? And, for better or for worse, I mean, Elon, even last year, I remember right before we did the interview, they were literally laying off people, or they were on the wake of it, literally laying off people way before the recession. I think it was something like 10,000. And so they continue to have a really good mindset looking forward and being able to see potential headwinds. And then they adapt quickly, right? They're not running like, some of these companies, they just take forever to adopt, especially Auto Legacy, right? Or Legacy Auto, they take forever to adapt to these situations, So I think, I'm really excited about what they're doing. I can't wait to see what they accomplish this year, hoping for, the recession, us to get out of this recession, hoping that they announce a couple of these other factories, obviously Giga Nevada with their 2 new factories coming online. But I'm still waiting for the Mexico, and then, potentially some other places that they'll announce. But just seeing them do this is pretty insane, especially we're talking about what, again, I think keep me honest here, it's like 80% of their revenue, something like that, is from the auto market. And so if you just look at comparing that to what the auto industry is doing, this is unlike anything that you'll ever see.
Yeah. The biggest bear case that Jim Chanos was saying was that he thinks that Giga Shanghai we're too reliant, too dependent on China. And so, I'm hoping March 1st, Investor Day, they announce some sort of alternative to Giga Shanghai to start building a Giga Indonesia, South Korea, something in the Asian continent, just to address that. But that is, I think, if you look at the bear cases, that's what they're looking forward to.
I have something to say about Giga Shanghai, and that's over the pandemic, the Chinese government had a huge push to be patriotic in their buying, and Tesla is somewhat considered patriotic, but not as much as BYD. However, remember at the time that the Shanghai factory was announced, a Chinese design studio was also announced of a Chinese design car for use in China and for export. And when that car comes out, then all of these China issues, in my opinion, will go away, because not only will it be a Tesla, which does have a brand premium in China, but it will be a Chinese car for the patriotic buy too, and affordable for vast, larger addressable markets. So that's one of those examples I think of a bear case where they're being very, very myopic and looking very close in at what the stock's doing and saying, well, there could be execution problems here. There could be execution problems there. But as retail investors, we're so lucky because we have the luxury of not having to be myopic, of being able to look ahead at the bigger picture.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, Giga Shanghai again, they're at what, 1 million a year right now, and assuming there's no other macro headwinds out of there, they're going to continue to operate, and they're probably, I think, the most efficient factory right now. And obviously Giga Berlin and Austin are still ramping, and obviously some of them, like Austin, is going to be doing the Cybertruck, so they kind of have different focuses. But I definitely think that, I mean, we saw it with Apple. Apple has pivoted from making a ton of their iPhones there. So I think, Herbert, you're making a right point in kind of being less reliant on China. I think long term is going to be very,
Yeah.
very important.
I'm looking at the transcript, and he was asked the question about the competition, and he was kind of pausing for a bit, and I finally said, who is the competition? But then he said, the Chinese companies are doing really well, and then he said at the end of that statement, right? I am looking for exact words, but then he say something like, "But we're doing like really like better in China than those companies as well." Didn't he say something like that?
I think it's particularly in relation to the margin advantage that Tesla has in China, because BYD has sold an awful lot of cars in China. They just don't have the margins that Tesla China is enjoying, and really couldn't match the price cuts that Tesla just made in China, which was significant. But what was really funny is when he said that he couldn't see number 2 for AI with a telescope. I thought that was funny. and full self-driving.
Yeah.
Even if you had a telescope.
Yeah, I don't see as big of a problem with China. Since we were kids, they've been talking about China and the problems with it, the supply chain, since we were all, kids. And it's like an asteroid that might hit one day. But the truth is that if companies are having problems manufacturing in China, then Walmart, right, Target, Amazon, like it's not, I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but it doesn't look like it's anywhere near in the future. And I think it's used against Tesla where it's not used against these other companies for whatever reason. But it doesn't seem as big of an issue. And I think he said they were leading in China, or they had a lead in China. And I think they have a good position because they're not, BYD is not a competition with them. We were talking about this, John, in one of the spaces where I asked somebody, is Tesla and BYD seen as in the same category in China? He said, "Oh, no. The guy, I forget what his name was, but he said BYD is like a Honda, like not a Honda, but like a economy car, and even the high end BYDs are like an economy car in comparison to Tesla."
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I think in that same space, I think there was like a magic number that Tesla would have to get to really, I think, sell as potentially as many as BYD. And I don't know if that's their goal. I think it was roughly 25,000, even though they're roughly at 33,000. But yeah, there's definitely a clear difference in the branding, right? BYD is more, not as high quality. It's definitely seen as more of the economy car, kind of probably maybe like a Honda Fit versus like a Honda Accord or a Honda Civic. And there's definitely huge differences, I think, in the Chinese market between the two brands.
And to your question earlier about a question asked on the call that wasn't answered, that last question from Adam Jonas got me really interested. And what he said on there was something that I didn't understand what he was talking about. He said, "When do you think we'll be able to bring down the BOM costs?" And I didn't know what he meant by BOM costs. Maybe you all are well aware of what BOM means in manufacturing: bill of materials. I didn't know this. I finally found out for somebody on Twitter. So he was talking about the bill of materials for producing the vehicles, but also the batteries. And Elon refused to answer this question. So I did a deep dive on this. And, I think that there's something happening with the production of these batteries that is not seen yet when it comes to not only the speed of production, but also just the volumes and the cost is going to be brought down so much And we see this today with GM and whoever saying, "Oh, we're going to switch to cylindrical." I mean, how many years now? It was like a year and a half, 2 years. This Ultimum thing with non-cylindrical, whatever the packs, and we all knew. We said, "Well, you guys are going to have to switch because you can't produce these batteries fast enough." It's not that the batteries aren't efficient, but you can't produce them fast because of the way that they're created. And it's the same thing with the solid state technology. Everybody, it's going to beat Tesla, this solid state. How many can you produce per day, per hour, per minute? Can you produce enough of these to actually fulfill the demand, right? And the answer is no for most of it. And the reason cylindrical, like this is one of the deep dives I did on it. The printing press, when they became newspaper print, when it became cheap enough where they could produce it, it was because it was going through cylinders, right? Cylinders, the printing press, the way it works is not typefaces being squeezed onto a page. It goes through a cylinder and just the paper goes straight through and it just gets printed on immediately and then cut and then folded. I mean, I did a whole deep dive on this, but the point is that, the factory is the product. And that's where they're focused on, is bringing down the cost of actual production, not of the cup holder or the this or that. They're bringing down the time it takes to put out a car and the cost it takes to put out one of these cars. The fact that they are even producing cars right now is like besides the point, because their focus is on actually creating the system,
The machine that builds a machine is
exactly
what he said often. And you Elon Musk did specifically say that manufacturing advantage they have, they're turning that to the battery cells manufacturing, exactly as you were just saying, and that they were. And I had the same impression that you did, that there was major things happening behind the scenes on the battery cell costs, where they don't even want the competitors to have any idea how much of an advantage Tesla is going to have and the pricing power they're going to have.
Yeah, did you guys see that? So the Giga Nevada, I do think, like you guys are saying, 4680 is probably an inflection curve, and it's about to just skyrocket in terms of its efficiency of producing, right? The Giga Nevada was announced. Did you guys also hear maybe when he was kind of hinting at future products? Did he say that there might be other products that will do 4680 other than what we already know, which is the cars and the power walls, right? You know what I mean? Like it seems like now everything's going to be 4680. Cybertruck, he confirmed, is going to have 4680. But is there another product that he haven't even talked about yet?
He specifically mentioned 2024, a big need for 4680s.
Yeah, and I think, ultimately, he even said on the call, they have so many ideas they don't even know what to do with. So I think it's, the biggest thing for them is prioritizing ruthlessly, because I think this company, as you can see, they're innovating and creating things at a very fast clip, and they could do and work on everything, but at the same time, it's really important for them to prioritize ruthlessly, and I know they will. I mean, you have some of the greatest minds working there, so. But yeah, I think one thing I wanted to mention, what did you guys think about some of the things that they had mentioned about FSD beta? Specifically, I think there's over 400,000 cars that are literally running on FSD. Yeah, I have the numbers right here. 400,000. They've done over 90 million miles outside of Navigate on Autopilot. So this is just strictly FSD beta. But again, they just continue to lead the way in the space of general autonomy, and just all this data, again, continuing to compile, continue to feed into the system. So I thought that was a huge call out, because again, last quarter, I believe it was 285,000. So they're continuing to add that. And then one other thing, I think it was Omar that had called this out, Holmar's blog, about how, some of the deferred revenue was going to hit. And I think it was, again, keep me honest here, it was like 325 million or something like that hit. And I think it was actually something like Gordon had said something like it wasn't even going to happen. So it was just kind of, but yeah, as they roll out more and more features, they're going to continue to release that revenue. But, that's something that I got excited about, because I think the big thing now is you have the auto business continuously growing, but it's also somewhat maturing, and they're gonna again make some comments on the next gen platform. But also too, the energy business is growing at, I think they said like 152% or something like that. But long story short, it's growing faster. It's growing faster than their auto business, and more importantly, like there's almost unlimited demand for this type of stuff. So I think it's just like it's one of those things where it's pretty insane to think that their focus has been on the auto business, and kind of potentially the one of the hidden giants in the background has been the solar business that's just going to ramp. But yeah, either way, I was really excited. That was something else that stuck out to me. Obviously, being able to be one of the testers and seeing these numbers grow, especially from like 285,000 going up to 400,000. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that. Otherwise, we
Yeah.
can.
No. Yeah. So this is what Pierre Ferragu asked the question, and then Elon said the trend is very strong towards the use of FSD, and with each improvement, enthusiasm increases. And Tesla is really one of the world's leading AI companies on both the software and all that. So again, not much information there, but I don't know if you want to read into it, but FSD is incrementally growing. The adoption is going to be happening. So there's, do you guys have any kind of doubts that FSD is going to grow? It's low right now, but that's because they're not pushing it, right now. But once they start to really kind of, educating the masses about this, I think that the uptake will be higher, and then the margin's 100%. So it will start to seriously impact the margins. But right now, it's kind of like just still there.
Yeah, I think it really just depends. Again, I've been watching it and personally driving with it for a little over 2 years, 2.5 years. And when I think of where it was to where it's at now, it's made leaps and bounds of strides. I think it's hard when you're in and out of these smaller updates to really see the progress. But when I look back to some of my earlier videos to where it is now, just everything has changed so many times. And there's a lot of stuff that happens on the back end that Elon had mentioned when we were talking with him in Austin. He had said that there's been like 29 rebuilds on literally the foundation, and that's all stuff you can't see. And so when you get like 10.69.25.2 and you see it and you're like, oh, this sucks, it's like not better. But yeah, that's what you're seeing. But they may have done a lot of work on the back end. And so there's a lot of things like that they're working on and trying to make better. And but yeah, I think they're ahead of the game. No one's further ahead of them when it comes to general autonomy. You could take a Waymo Cruise in in SF or LA or Phoenix, specific areas. I think even Austin, or some of them are lighting up those cities. But you can't go to a street in Idaho and turn on, Waymo or Cruise. But you can do that with FSD. You could go to Miami and do that. You can be anywhere. It's not perfect. It still has a long way. And I think it's still going to take a while for it to get to, to like full autonomy. I still think I don't know if I want to throw out dates, but 3 to 5 years, I feel like at least, because there's still just a lot of things that we need to work on. So that's just my opinion, but I'm personally, really bullish on, this being something that will, as you mentioned, Herbert, like long-term will continue to help their margins and increase it.
He did say that FSD hardware 3 is 3 to 400% safer, 3 to 4 times safer than a human, and then hardware 4 will be 5 to 6 times safer than a human. And I think that he's previously said that you need to be 10 times safer than a human before it can actually be considered by regulators as irresponsible to not roll out more.
Yeah, I mean, hardware 4 is going to be a game changer. I think it was Omar who said he's just going to buy a new Tesla right when that comes out, but
just buy the Tesla.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, no, I think there's huge strides that still need to be made in this space. I think, Will, did you want to say something?
I'm actually much more bullish than both of you. I don't know about Amy, but I'm much more bullish on FSD. And I've only been in an FSD car once or twice. And what I think is, okay, so I don't know if you've ever worked with audio, but there's a way, I used to be a sound engineer, you can put a limiter on the top of the audio so that it won't go above a certain level. And you can change the sensitivity on that so that if it starts to peak, it'll bring it back down. Tesla has the limiter set way low. The sensitivity was set way high. to stop FSD. So when you're driving and it gets a little worried, it's going to stop itself. It's going to slow down, whatever it's going to do. They don't need to have that sensitivity so high, but they're doing that for safety. And what we're seeing today as, oh, an intervention, you have to give it gas or you have to, you know, take over, it's because they're putting the sensitivity super high. It's not because it can't do it. It's because they don't want to take the risk. And they also want you to take over more often to give them more data. They don't get any, I mean, they get data if you don't take over also, but they don't get the good data unless they see every time it got a little sensitive, what happened? What did you do? How did you fix the situation? And so it's, you know, it's training off of us. And yeah, it's not, I don't think it's nearly as far back as it feels. It's just that they have the sensitivity turned way up to 11.
I have a kind of different perspective than someone who's driven FSD, because I'm a pilot that flies an airplane with a very sophisticated autopilot. And I can see where the autopilot and the auto throttles work for us, and the edge cases where it doesn't work for us. I fly 787. So when I look at that, I do see that where FSD is right now, in my opinion, is very similar to where the autopilot is on a 787. And the number of edge cases, if you had all the data that Tesla does, as Will was referencing, and they can drill down, and, you know, at one point Carpathy was like, we go and we query the data for occluded stop signs, and we just ask to see all the examples of occluded stop signs out there, and we train it on that edge case. So I can see the path of exponentially increasing training on just these edge cases, and narrowing down the edge cases that are there, to get to a solution quicker than 3 to 5 years. But then, of course, you have the whole regulatory approval segment of it as well.
Yeah. And then the other thing, I love what you just said there, because that's, you know, incrementally, but they're also continuing to build the neural nets, right? And they just said that in FSD version 11, they've expanded the neural net to not just be the driving of the car, but also the controls and the navigation. And so every time you introduce a new neural net layer that's on top of all the other ones, it needs to kind of learn on its own and figure things out. And so it's going to be very slow, and you keep adding things, you keep removing things. Then eventually, once it kind of starts to, you know, grow, it'll be, we're hoping, exponential, and that's when things will move much faster. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I know it's 9:40. I know some of us have additional calls after this, but I wanted to say, was there anything that that you were super excited about, that you know, are just really pumped about today and really for the future, or any other major call outs?
For me, I was really pumped by, again, just that laser focus on the big picture. I mean, they mentioned during the call the amount, just to get to 1% of the global auto market, the number of factories and the amount of execution that was going to take to grow auto, and why they want to keep growing auto through a recession. Same thing with energy, that 1,000 megawatt hour target that they have, or a terawatt. You know, these are big, huge, enormous goals, and that's where Tesla wants to get to. So that comes down to enormous 50% year-over growth, year after year after year, on average, to be able to get to those goals. And, you know, they just reiterated that focus, and that was exciting to me, that the major growth of the stock isn't behind it, but it's still major in front of us.
Definitely.
I am very, very excited about the operating margin, the focus on operating margin. And we just talked about it today, factories to product, because what they're going to do is they're going to have affordability of the cars. So when, you know, right now, Tesla's seen as this premium brand, right? And then the complaint was, it's so expensive. Who cares? It's out there. But because they did the global price cuts, everybody in the world knows that this happened. All my friends, my family are now asking me about it. And so now in the minds of the consumer, Tesla is not only a very incredibly premium brand, it's also a very affordable car now. And as they lower the prices because of the operating margins, you know what I mean? It's like, it's going to be this, what? Not only the best product, but a very affordable product price. It's going to be, and we saw the price elasticity it's amazing. Just every $5,000 reduction in ASP, the market jumps by 10, 20, 30% up higher. And so we're very close to even just another reduction. I actually am not even thinking they need to have a compact car. You might be able to take the Model 3, people are calling it the Highland project, and reduce it by another 5 to 10,000. Why do you need a compact car? If their costs can go down, they just could have variant of that, and all of a sudden you get 50% of the market available for you. So, affordability of the cars because of the margins, and often it's just going to, be impossible for anybody to catch up. But also, they'll win every single market at that point, right?
And with the amount of parts in common between the Model 3 and the Model Y, you could say that the Model Y is just a variant of the Model 3. That's going a bit far, but my point is that what I would say about what I'm excited about is keeping these margins, growing these margins, showing Wall Street that no, Tesla is not just a car company. The margins aren't going to drop to match what other auto companies have, because they're not like that. They're not just what's it called? They're not just assemblers. They're not just assembling cars, and it's just keeping the margins where they are and growing them and showing that that's going to be a continuous thing was the most important thing. And I see a lot of Wall Street people sort of coming around to it, seeing that this is not going to be a fly by night. These are not going to compress. And I think, people talk about the stock price and why is it doing this and why is it doing that? They are the Wall Street analysts and the institutions. They are discounters. Just the same way that you discount for your budget and you say, well, I could have a medical emergency or my car could break down. They are discounting all the bad things that could happen in the future to the cash flows. And they're looking at it as, well, here's the auto sector. Here's what's going to happen to them. And so we're going to discount that to everybody in the auto sector. That's, a very clear picture of what's happening. And Tesla is going to make them look very, very silly. So that's all I have to say about that. I mean, they're doing their job. They're discounting, and that's, financially sound in this environment for sure.
Yeah, no, I think all great points. I think the thing that resonated with me is just the several things. Really is just, again, that the factories are the product, and you clearly see that as the operating margin is going from 2017. It's like hockey sticking up, where the margin's increasing, and they're leveraging that. And I think that is, as Elon has said, their greatest competitive advantage. I mean, he's stated that he probably knows more about manufacturing than any person in the world. And you have that same person who is, again, running these companies, that literally knows manufacturing like the back of his hand. And so I'm really excited, especially as they launch more of these gigafactories, as they potentially reveal the next gen platform and potentially more products if there is a cheaper, more compact car. All I know is that they're taking what they have right now and they're being absolutely ruthless in optimizing for efficiency. So that's what I'm excited about. A couple of other smaller things, really the energy business with the expansion of Nevada and some of these other areas. I'm really excited about their energy business. It's, again, kind of potentially like their hidden giant that has kind of been brewing in the background that they've still been investing a ton in. I went to the Megapack factory in Lathrop a while ago, and it's just incredible to see the scale of that. It's not Giga Austin, but they literally, it's like a whole street, a whole block. And so the energy business, and then, this is more of a selfish thing, the Cybertruck, I'm really excited to see that ramp. I mean, I think they had mentioned in the call that they're already installing the tooling for the Cybertruck. And obviously we've seen some probably images out there about them doing that with the gigapresses coming in and things like that. So it's going to be an incredible year. What I personally am really happy about with this call is I felt like they came in just strong, came in with a little swag. Demand is 2x production. And and the stupid thing is, we're going to get this question again next quarter. It's like, I think part of the problem with Tesla is, like, I think we have amnesia and we forget that this is the question every quarter. every quarter we're going to get a demand question. And if
Elon said, put it to rest. Let's once and for all. Not enough.
I think we're going to get this question next week because the China weekly numbers are going to come in and everyone's going to forget it was Chinese New Year and everyone was out partying and no one was buying cars. And they're going to be like, oh no, we didn't have enough Chinese registrations.
And I'm glad they put out that chart that shows inventory, or the chart that shows inventory, the table, because the daily the cars in inventory, on average for the year was less than 2018. And so people always talk about inventory this and inventory growth and what are they going to do when inventory blah, blah, blah shoots up again. And it's like, they don't have a problem with inventory over the span of the year. Sure, there's going to be bottlenecks in supply chain, or when they stop sending out cars because they're about to do a price cut, but that doesn't relate to as a whole for the year. And so it's just, I think they're doing a great job of really illustrating what's really going on.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think it's going to be an exciting year. And I think the last thing too, I mean, some people I think depending on how you feel, they kind of took this a little bit differently, specifically on the brand damage. And I think Elon, again, is just he continues to get this question like, hey, have you done a brand damage survey? Have you, are there any like landmarks? And I think, I mean, he just pretty much dropped the mic or the gauntlet and just like pretty much saying like, I have one of the biggest followings in the world, if not one of the most interacted social media accounts in the world. And I think that, even again, if you get, because we've had people, I've been tagged in a couple of posts, even in the Bay Area, with people, let's say, canceling their order. But with that same amount of people, this is before the price drops. And Herbert, again, even myself, like I have people that I literally talked to Tesla about 4 or 5 years ago, and they're all buying Teslas now, especially at these incredible prices. And so it's one of those things, we're part of the, that group that we were able to see a lot of this stuff even years before, and Amy and Herbert, probably like six years before myself. And so it's just one of those things where, we're seeing a lot of what the vision was back in even 2012, or even when this, Tesla was started itself. So it's really cool. I mean, we're still in this like second or third inning of this baseball game, of this company's journey. They're not at this point now where they're just giving out dividends and just kind of surviving, acquiring companies and laying people off and stuff. And so just an incredible time. I do feel like, I think it was, what was it, Dan Eves, who was like, this is like the most important call. I didn't really believe that, but I think the statements that came out of it were really significant, especially to set the tone for this upcoming year. Is there competition? Meh. Our demand is 2x our production. And again, social brand, again, like you still may, you may hear noise about that, but he just made that very clear. No, this is not an issue.
Yeah, for me, having listened to every conference call since the IPO, this is the one of the ones where I actually came out of it the most excited. Not on the short
even
term.
Before Q3 of last year.
Yeah, even not on the short term. We're going into the recession, but on the long term focus of Tesla and how much ahead of everybody else they are out there on multiple business fronts, and the exponential growth that I can foresee happening, and the path that Elon said to the world's most valuable company like Apple and Aramco combined. I mean, they were really laying out the steps that they were already taking to try and get there. And I found the future bright and exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any last comments? Otherwise, we can wrap up. But okay. Well, Herbert, did you want any final comments?
Just I agree with Amy. I mean, I think that Q3 was, where he said everything we needed to hear. But to this quarter, it was much more, they showed it with numbers. And they were very mature, like you said, John. And I thought that's why I kind of, after thinking about it just in the last 5 seconds here, I agree with you, Amy. This is better than the Q3.
Yeah, no, I mean, I personally felt like this was definitely better than the Q3, just because of, again, and partially, I think even in Q3, the stock wasn't being hit as hard. And now we're coming out of this where this stock has rallied over, I think, 50% in the last 20 days. And again, it's still not $300, but again, it's come way back. And I think that they really needed to provide reassurance to investors to the doubters. And I think that this call did an amazing job doing that.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you, John.
awesome. Sorry, were you going to say something, Herbert? Or Will?
Just thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
thank you. Thank you for the space.
Yeah. No, Herbert, as always, thanks for being an amazing friend, showing me the ropes on some of the stuff that I'm up to now. And even taking the time, I think it was a week or two ago when we talked about, the real Elon Musk and stuff like that. Will, thanks for dropping your dimes as well, especially on the spaces, and Amy as well. Thank you as well. Just obviously being local. You need to come to an event one of these days.
I do.
Yes. Yeah, you have no excuses, but yeah, no, it's really thankful for all of your guys' wisdom. I think some of you have your name tags, but obviously I tagged them all on Twitter. So if you go to the original live stream, or not the live stream now, but the announcement I made yesterday, Herbert's at Herbert Ong. I think Will's literally, I think you can see his name. It's at comp ulize. I'm going to butcher that. And then Amy's at SF_Tahoe, right?
Yes.
So yeah, make sure to give them all a follow. I really appreciate them coming on board, and thank you guys for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for having us.